Okay, welcome back, everyone. We are on to the next session. This is a session specifically focused on medical students. We have two members of our executive team, the amazing Ishaan Singh and Annie Singh, MS3s, who have done some good research in India, and they are third-year medical students. So they are going to present their experience on how they are doing research while being in medical school, and also how to apply for an ICMR study or how to get selected for it and what does it entail. So over to you, Ishaan and Annie. Good luck. So you're muted, Annie. I think you're saying something, but I think you're still muted.
Yeah, guys, I'm on my phone right now. Like my laptop's battery is dead. So that's why I'm on a phone right now. I'm facing a lot of technical difficulties right now. So, okay, so just bear with me for this. Okay, so as we're gonna start, Ishaan, can we share the presentation?
Yeah, definitely. Just
Can you just share the screen?
just a second.
Okay, so as Ishaan is sharing the screen, I would just like to tell a little about my own experience with research, like just a 5 minute of what I did in my first, second year, and as a med student, I'm in third year currently. Okay, so I started med school in 2019, and I just knew, like, before coming to med school, I knew that I wanted to do research. I knew I wanted to pursue MLE. So I had no idea how I'm going to do it. I had no idea who I'm going to approach, but I just knew that I want to do research right now. So I started med school. I was the first batch of my college. I had no idea what to do, how to do anything. So I heard about this thing called STS, like the short-term studentship in ICMR, and I thought, oh, okay, this is a good chance. I can do something here. And so I thought about, hey, let's approach some mentors and guides. And I had no one to approach at that point because I was new in a new college. I had no idea about anything. And I was actually hesitant to approach doctors at that point. So my friend knew a neurosurgeon resident in our hospital actually. So I thought, hey, okay, that person has done STS in his time. So I can approach him and ask him how he did it. Okay. So I went to this neurosurgery resident and I told him about how I want to pursue STS, how I'm really interested in research and all that. And he was actually doing some documentation at that point. I think he was busy with work. He didn't even look up to me. And he just said that, forget about it. He said, forget about it. You're in your first year. You cannot do research in first year. Maybe start thinking about it in your second and third year. Right now, you cannot do it. And I was a little pissed. I have to say that it really hurt my ego at that point. And it actually made me more determined to pursue research because I thought, okay, people are telling me not to do something. It just makes you want to do it more, right? So I just thought that, like, I read Quora answers, I went to Reddit, and I just thought, okay, I want to do research. I don't have a mentor. Why don't I just start with looking for a title for my research right now? So I did that. I looked for a title, and I thought that, okay, there's a very little work done in the trans healthcare. Like in India, there's not much research done in the trans community, and I thought, okay, I can pick up that. I can pick up that. So I did that. I picked on a topic that was to study the stress and anxiety levels in transgender population, but I had no mentor. 15 days were left for the STS submission, but I had no mentor at this point. So I just thought, okay, I'm just gonna shoot in blind right now. I went to the psychiatry department. I met this professor, and I thought, okay, hey, I want to do research in this. I'm first year. I know I don't know anything. I know you know way more than me, but just if please you can take me up for this, it will be great. And fortunately, they were really good people. Like the one I met in psychiatry, she was a really good professor, and she said, "Okay, we can do this." And that's how I actually started doing research. After that, it was a little easy because once you've done a first research, once you found your mentor, at that point, it's easy because once you know a mentor, you'll know other doctors too. You'll know other doctors who have done research. You'll know other doctors who are going to do research with you because now they know. Now they know that there's a student who's interested in research. So that was just like a brief explanation of what I did my first year. The rest of it will be explained with the PPT. If you can just start with it.
Yeah, definitely, Annie. I'll just start with the PPT. Just confirm me that you can all see my screen.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, great. Yeah. So as Annie has mentioned her story in the brief, I'll just go on and expand on it like in a very elaborate way that what we did, what we missed, and what you could do better, and everything that we had to go through. So first of all, a bit about me. As Annie, I'm also a third year medical student at Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Medical Science, Delhi. So it's a very new college. It's a very reputed hospital. I think, Annie, there is some noise in the background.
Yeah. One.
Yeah. So we were both in the first batch of the students that entered the hospital, and as you can expect that of new college, it is already very difficult to do things, and research, one of the things that is already very difficult even to do in established colleges, was even more difficult to us, as Annie has said. So basically, first of all, I like to start with how to do research as a medical student, and so yeah, let's start with it. So what is research? So basically, my idea for this session was basically to give the students a basic overview of what research is, what are various types of methodology, what are the various type of study design, and what are the most feasible ones that we can do outside of the US, and that can help us in the match process, get us help get us publications in good journals and everything. So my idea would be to just go into the basics of the research and then elaborate into each and everything as we go. So what is research? So basically, if you there are a lot of definitions for research, but basically the research for what I understand with research is systemic investigation into increasing the sum of knowledge. So basically, research is something that we pursue so as to increase the overall knowledge in any specific field, not only medicine, not it can be economics, it can be physics, it can be chemistry or anything, or maybe even history or anything. So research is something that we do so as to we can either confirm something, find something new, or reject something that has been going on for years. So that is the basic premise of research that I understand. For example, there is a company, Hyundai. It's a very famous car making company in the world. So they want to research that what is their sales in winter season and the summer season. So they can assemble a team of people who just assess the data of how many cars they sold in winter, how many cars they sold in summer, and just simple, just a graph to see how many cars they have sold in anything, and then they can see the data to increase their knowledge and insight into where they are selling more cars, what are the factors that are coming into play when they are selling the cars. So that is the thing. So basically that. So the first step is to define. So basically with this example, what I want to so that is the research is for me is basically divided into three parts. First of all, you have to think, what do you want to do? Second, you have to do what you decided to do, that is, and the third thing is you have to analyze, and ultimately the benefit comes into your hand. So as I have written here, survey, evaluate perceptions, trial, objective measure of performance, feedback and improvement. So these are just words that I gathered from here. No such use for us. Let's yeah. So before going further into what is research, how did we do research, and what are the various components of research, I would like to go into why actually do research. Why is research important to us as medical students? I mean, if it's my personal experience, and many of you might have also felt the way, out of a batch of 100, 200 or whatever, majority of the students are not even interested in research. If you go ask your batchmates who are sitting here, they might not know even the ABC or even the basics of research, if I'm correct. So why are we assembled here, and why do we want to do research? So as we know, we have a USMLE mindset people here. So first of all, the reason is increasing your chances of matching to residency. As step one has become pass and fail, and as step one has become pass and fail, and step two CK and various other parameters that are there have come into play. So one of the prime reasons for us is to helps you increase your chances of matching into a good residency program. Second, ability to use medical research for medical practice. So basically, research, as in any field of science, is also vital to the medical science. The results you derive from your research or surveys or projects is actually vital. If it's actually a good research, it is vital. It adds to our overall, depth of knowledge that we have into that subject. So it's basically a service to humankind. For me, that is what I think. Addition to your resume, again, uh, in India also, if some of you do not want to pursue MLE, or either you are not sure about MLE, it is my experience, because I have, as Annie has said, we have worked with some of the very good professors in India. They are actually very brilliant people who are doing research in India, who are not going to pursue MLE for the foreseeable future. So why are they doing research? In India also, the various posts like assistant professor, associate professors, promotions and everything are dependent on research. Your career as a doctor in India, or I think maybe in many of the countries, or even USA, research becomes more and more important as you want to specialize further. So if you want to go in academic medicine, be it India, be it US, be it UK, research is going to help you. And earn more money. Definitely, it's pretty relevant in cases you are doing some very high end research. You can get grants, you can get scholarships, you can even get patents. I know people from AIMS, I know people in the US who have got patents for their research. One of the, as Annie was telling the story, so right now we are working with a professor in Department of Medicine. He's actually a very good professor. And he told us a story of his friends who was actually not interested in medicine, but he was interested in research and sciences overall. So he just passed his MBBS, went to US, and he, I don't know, I don't exactly remember, but he patented a device which was used in the, which is currently used in the pediatric ICU. He got a patent for that. So you can earn money, you can start your business or anything. But again, it's a very high end kind of thing, not relevant for most of us, but still one of them. For visa, uh, again, I think I don't need to reiterate much into this. We have had like multiple sessions on how research is vital for us as Indians, as IMGs. Research is important for us to get the visa. I will not go into much detail. We have had like multiple sessions in the past. You can go watch them on our YouTube. So that is one of the reasons. Okay, so here I have kept a slide of one of the first things when you enter the domain of research. One of the first thing that you will see when you want to read a research paper or anything, you go to Google, you go to PubMed, you go to Google Scholar or anything, you will see this thing. What is this thing? Abstract. So what is this abstract? So abstract for me basically is just a summary of any paper you have published or anyone has published. So for example, this is to assess the efficacy and safety of favipiravir in adults with mild to moderate COVID-19. So when you do a research paper, when you publish to a journal or when you submit to any conference or anything, they do not, so it goes through a various stages. But first it goes to the editor, then reviewer, then so it's a long process. In the initial phases, the editors or reviewers, these people do not have the time to go and read your whole paper. A 3,000, 3,500 word paper, if you are writing an original article, or maybe 1,000 to 1,500 word review, they do not have the time because they have a lot of applications. So this is basically a way for them as well as us to read and catch up what anyone has done in their field. So basically, abstract in the sense is a summary of your paper. It has various components. Basic, more or less, it is same. It has an objective or your aim, your title, your methods, your results, your conclusion. It might vary. Some journals have some guidelines, some conferences have some guidelines, but basically, all in all, it is a summary of your paper. It contains your title, what you have done, your results, and your conclusion. So that is your abstract. So I wanted to get it away because this is the thing that we first see when we just a second. Okay, yeah, so continuing. So we were on why do research, and I'll just continue with some other reasons that I personally think are important while doing research. So there is a first reason that I have mentioned here is working at the edge of medical sciences. So what do I mean by that? For that, I'll just show you this diagram. So this diagram shows our standard of training as medical students in any country in the world. So more or less it is same. Names might change here and there, but more or less the training remains the same. We start our journey as undergraduates or high schoolers. In India, it's high school. In US, it's undergraduation. Then we go to med school where we learn about basic stuff related to everything. Then we go to residency. Then we go to fellowship. Then we go to faculty. And in most of the cases, there is a very set pattern of learning. In medical school, you have to learn anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. You have to learn your clinics, your basics, physical examination. Everything is set. You have to do them. Similarly, in residency, similarly in fellowship, there are competencies. There are some things that you need to know when you are becoming a doctor. But in all of this, some people like us who are interested in research, they want to just explore the boundaries of what is going on in the current world. For example, when we in our first year, I remember there are a lot of things that we used to study: EEGs, ECGs, and your Cushing syndrome and all of that. But the question is, what we are reading has been known to humanity for like 50, 60, 40, 30 years. We are reading those things again and again. I'm not saying they're not important, but there is a kind of limitation when you are studying like that. While doing research, the most interesting aspect personally to me in a research is the chance to work at the edge of medical science. For example, someone is interested into radiology, and how less exposure we have to certain specialties, including radiology, anesthesiology, or psychiatry or anything. But if someone is interested into radiology, how do we explore that interest? I think research is the best. In radiology, the cutting edge is like, if you go into the details of what is currently going on into the domain of radiology, it's astounding. For me, I am like amazed. Neural networks, convoluted neural networks, deep neural networks, these are all high-fi words that I also, just read out of interest. But yeah, basically, it's just, mind bending of what is going on into medical science. While if you stick to your curriculum, you are never going to know these things unless you come in practice where you actually have to use these. But being someone who is interested in research, I have a basic idea of how neural networks work, how imaging is done, how are pixels converted into numbers into computers, and how are they analyzed, how our algorithms are able to detect fibrosis in the lung, cancers in the lung. So it's brilliant. You get a chance to work on the cutting edge technology. So for me, this is one of the primary reasons to work as a researcher. Helping patients, again, abstract reason, contributing to humankind. Some of us have this. I do not have this, but some people have a knack of serving to humanity. There are a lot of people in the history, Marie Curie, like people, Rosalind Franklin, a lot of people who have contributed a lot to the domain of medicine, physics, or chemistry, who just wanted to increase our knowledge. So those people are very rare and very smart and like that. So giving back to mankind, again, similar philosophy. For IMGs, again, I cannot say this enough, that for visa. So earlier we start working for research. The more we have citations, the more are the chances to get accepted in the EB1 category, the visas. Okay, so this was about why to do research. Why do we need to do research, and what were my perspectives related to research. Now we come to what can I do as a medical student. So that is the crux of this session. In India, especially in India, and to be honest, in earlier phases, as Annie has said, in the first or second year, what we used to see that most of the people in your institution, and I think the condition is similar in the US also, because I know a lot of medical students in the US. As a medical students, your knowledge is already limited. So no matter how much motivated we are, there will be some roadblocks. Be it India. In India, it will be more. In USA, it might be less. So I can't say about that. But definitely there are limitations to everywhere because your knowledge is limited. So many a times actually when these professors demotivate us or residents demotivate us, they are in a kind of way right in their own perception, because they think like we have spent around 10 or 12 years in medicine. How this guy who is just in medicine for 2 years can do these things that we were not able to do in our time. But again, that is not going to stop us. If it would have, then no medical student in the world would have been doing research. But we know this can be farther from truth. So yeah, so I'll be focusing on the feasibility and practicality aspect of research, especially outside of the US. So factors to consider when designing a research project is resource availability. and I cannot emphasize this enough. I'll when we finish this, I'll just show you an example of what Annie and I did in our first and second year, how our thought process was. So first thing is resource availability, especially in India. For example, I'm giving there are hospitals. You want to do some research on, say, something related to CT scans. You have a brilliant idea which can revolutionize the way that we do CT scans, and it might improve the outcome of some trauma or something in patients who are presenting to the emergency department. Okay, that's a great idea. It's a great idea. We have had idea like this in the first or second year, but how are you going to do it? In our hospital, which is one of the very respected hospitals in India, we only have 3 CT scans machine in our home hospital, and you have like a long line of people waiting in turn to get that CT scan. You can't do that. So you have to consider. So similarly, you want to take some project related to artificial intelligence. So again, if you are well versed in that sciences, then it's a different thing. But most of the professors in your colleges are not versed in that. Even in the US, only a handful of people are well versed into the cutting edge technology. So first thing while designing an idea, because as I said, I think you need to remember, for me, this is my personal guru mantra type of thing, that research is a 3-part thing. You have to think of the idea, you have to execute it, and then you have to analyze and publish it. So the first step, we are right now focusing on the first step. So for that, I think the idea should be held about the point of resource availability. It is different for each and every place in the world. For our place, it's different. In the US, it's different. In some region of Gujarat in India, it's different. Maharashtra, it's different. You have to consult your professors, you have to see your conditions, you have to see the resources, and then you can decide on the resource availability. Then second is mentorship. Again, this, as Annie has discussed, is very difficult to get, especially in the initial phases. But I am promising you, this is okay. So not a kind of guarantee, because we'll just come running behind our backs that you gave us again. So not a guarantee, but I can promise, if you search well enough, in most of the places, there are some people who are interested. Ultimately, you need to find. If they are not, then you can think about collaborating with other institutions, with other people, even us, our team, or try to get mentors at your own institution, because they can help you with projects that we can't help you with. We can't help you with projects that are related to patient interaction, or for that matter, anyone couldn't help you with that. So first thing is that you need to get a mentor, and I am promising you there are mentors. And at every place there are who are interested in research. You have to just go and find. Okay. Then is the time period. Yes, this is very important. Again, many of the, I'm not talking about some of the rare ones who can pull off a very miraculously good research papers in span of 4 years. I'm not talking about them. For normal people who just want to pursue research as an interest or for MLE or anything, time period is very important. You can't just go to your professor who is doing a 10-year case control study or randomized control trial on some drug or anything, which will take 5 years or 10 years, and you just go involved into that and your target is USMLE. So that research experience will be useful for that. By the time it ends, you will end up with nothing at the time you need. So basically, if it's a 5-year or 7-year long paper, when you go to your match, you will most probably you will not have a publication. You will have good experience. That is one thing. But the point is that you have to take a few papers which become ready in, say, period of like 1 month, 2 months, 6 months at max, or maybe a year, if you are interested in something that is taking that amount of time. So that is one of the things. And also remember, this is a thing that most people don't talk about, is that basic sciences research and drug trials and anything, these are all, and so basically intervention based studies, they are already very difficult to do, because when you are doing an intervention, even your attending or your professor does not know if it is going to succeed or fail. As a medical student, you have limited time, limited resources. You need to get your crux out of it, and if you miss that opportunity, I think it will go in vain. So I think you should invest in those projects that so we are having like brilliant sessions on case. We had a session on Dr. Nikhila took a session, and we are having a session on case reviews, literature reviews, or systemic reviews, narrative reviews, and everything. So there, so I'll come and discuss some briefly about all of them. So I think you should take projects that complete in time and give you something to add to your CV. So that is what I mean by time. And value of the answer to the research question. So again, it's a technical aspect. You have to concisely and appropriately define your research question. So this I'll not explain here. I'll just go and give you an example of a project that we are currently pursuing, which has almost completed, and then I guess you'll understand this point better. Own skill and knowledge. Yeah, this is again very important. As I said, we are medical students. We have a limited time, limited resources, limited knowledge. So we need to see about that. So for example, a first year student. So I'm not saying it's impossible. It's very difficult that he can, conduct some kind of randomized control trial on some drug of some cancer, some monoclonal antibody or anything like that, because it's difficult. You need a lot of background in research to pursue these kind of big projects. So that is one of the things. So start from basics. So that is one of the takeaway points, and then move your way forward upward, and at each step evaluate what you know, and then decide what you want to do. Goals from the research. Again, these are the things that what ultimately you want from the research. You want to add to the plethora of human knowledge that is already there. You want to add it to your CV or anything. It is personal, but yeah, you should have your goal in mind, that what you want to do. So that is, yeah. So the next slide I have kept here are the various type of projects that we can do at any level of our training. So this is not the only classification that we have. There are a lot of ways to classify, but yeah, basically we have basic sciences research, molecular and traditional studies. Again, these are studies that are the most, in my personal experience, these are the studies that take a very long time, and these are the most unpredictable kind of studies. They take a long time, and we do not know how they're going to turn out, and they also demand a lot of work from site. But again, if someone is interested, for me personally, if I had time, and when will be free with this residency, I might try and do something in basic sciences if I have some time. So it's a very interesting field, but as medical students, as a advice on the practicality aspects, these are pretty much redundant. Then there is medical education studies. These are very popular, especially becoming increasingly popular. We ourselves are doing currently a study on this type of thing. I'll just show you an example when we are done with this. So these are survey or KAP, knowledge attitude practice, knowledge attitude perception studies. Simple studies, you just design a survey, you go ask your target population, you get your results, you analyze and you publish. Sounds very easy, but it isn't. The reason is pretty much anyone can do this. A lot, I know in my college and many colleges of India, Pakistan, people are doing hundreds of these studies. The problem arises in the publication aspect. Top journals, top of the line journals straight away reject these kind of studies. They are very picky. They are very, very picky about these kind of things. So if you are doing these studies, well and good. If you have a brilliant idea or something out of the box that I can't think of currently, then well and good. But expect that these kinds of study have a very low chance of actually being published in a very good journal. Educational so studies based on educational methods. Again, there are a study, it is again based on medical education. It comments on various techniques of medical education, how can be improved then, or it's similar, but it's a bit more detailed about that. Yeah, so again, clinical studies, observational and intervention. So yeah, this is the most important thing that we need to know about, and these are the things that we should focus on. Observational research, so the word itself gives it away. Observational research. So observational research is basically a type of research where we are observing something. It can be anything, but since we are concerned with medicine, we'll just focus on the medicine aspect of the observational study. So there are various types of observational studies, but the main ones that I have written here are the prevalence studies, case report, case series, association studies, cross-section studies. So I think as medical students, in my personal experience, observational observational analytical studies are the best ones to publish. If you have a good idea, if you have a mentor, if you have a a resource availability at your institution, I think these kind of studies can give you the highest output in terms of publication and your experience. So there are various type of cross sectional studies. There are the some cohorts studies. There are a lot of studies, so they are there that are there. So I'll just come to all of these in a bit, but right now I'm just giving you a brief background. So intervention quality improvement studies, clinical trials. So quality improvement studies, there I don't think are pretty much relevant for us here. Clinical trials, again, there are case control studies, there are cohort trials, there are randomized control trials, and there are retrospective, prospective trials, there are single blind, double blind. There is a lot to explore. Again, uh, I think you have to move to these things when you are, have a basic thing experience of research that I'm going to come to in the coming slides. Some other research studies: narrative reviews, systemic reviews, meta-analysis, cost-effective analysis, public database analysis studies, app development and validation, device development and validation. So narrative reviews is basically you are giving a narration on topic of it. So I'm just touching on these because we have brilliant sessions where people who are actually doing these things daily are coming and and they'll be enlightening you on the aspects of these studies. So I think you shouldn't miss those sessions. So I'm just giving you a brief. So narrative review, that systemic review, meta-analysis are the epitome of review studies, where in you have a library, a lot of people, it is conducted into multiple layers. You take a lot of papers, you filter out some of them, then you filter out more, and ultimately you try to summarize the literature that has been studied in like 10, 20, 30 years, depending on what they want to do. Cost effectiveness analysis, not pretty much relevant. Public database analysis studies are very relevant in the countries like US that have maintained a database of their health and everything, not in India because we have to collect our own data in most of the situations. App development and validation, again, for those who are interested in that, we have worked on a project related to this. Pretty interesting, but again, very time consuming and requires a lot of skills and knowledge that most of the students either don't have or don't want to go into. Device development and testing, again, it requires a lot of engineering or extra knowledge, but again, these are actually very contributing in good topics, but require a lot of effort from our side. So I'll just be focusing on what are the most optimal ways to do research. So after these, as we have as I already touched upon, I'll just come to it again, and we also have to discuss one more important topics, and I have written it here. What is the goal of a research project in medical school? We left that goal part, I just skimmed it up there, so I'll just come to it again. So first is publication in a journal, because that is what is going to add to your CV. That is what your program director is going to see in the US. That is what your interviewer is going to see if you are interviewing for a position of professor in India. So that is the thing. Publication in a good journal, in a good index journal, that is should be the top priority. At least it is for me. Poster presentation at a conference, poster presentation or maybe oral presentation at a conference, depends. There are poster presentations where you have some 5 or something minutes, and in oral presentation you have a bit more time. So that is there, you can go, and it is also added as a form of experience, research experience in your CV. Submission to ICMR STS, again, it is relevant to people who are studying in India, and he has touched upon this. I'll just come and discuss it into as we go further. Just for learning or pursue a future career as a scientist. Some of, again, this is for very rare minority of people who are present among us who actually want to become a scientist. That could be one of the reasons. Submission of abstract to conferences / seminars, again, I think I have covered it already. And yeah, so ICMR STS. So ICMR STS, so basically those who don't know and those who know, so I'll just reiterate for everyone. So Indian Council of Medical Research short-term studentship. It's a program that was started by the Indian Council of Medical Research. I don't remember, it was started maybe 5-10 years back, I don't know. So there what they have is that as MBBS first, second, third, fourth year students, you can register on their website. You along with a guide from your institution. You can have a guide from your from other institution also, but it's a cumbersome process. So basically from your institution, and you have to submit a research protocol. What is a research protocol? I'll come to that. So you have to submit a research protocol along with a guide, and then they give you some stipend if you complete that project. I think it's like 50,000 for now, for as far as I remember. So what is the benefit of doing this thing? One, it adds to your CV. It is a form of scholarship. It can come under your honors, awards, or scholarship section in your CV. Helps to enter the domain of research. Now, this is very dicey, and I personally want to bust this fact for each and everyone who is sitting there. ICMR STS is not the doorway to research in medical school. ICMR is not. I just can't emphasize on this enough. You can do research right from the first day of your med school if you find a mentor, you know the basics and everything. ICMR is nothing. They are just, as I have written the last point, add money to your pocket. That is probably the reason for looking back at that time. We didn't know this, right, Annie? She's smiling. So at that time, she what was our reason was that we were thought that, look, this is ICMR, this is something big, but it isn't. I'm telling you, you can do, because ultimately in ICMR STS also they have a set way of selecting projects. I'll just go into the mentality of how those people, because we have 3 or 4 projects. We got our project selected, and the next year 2 of our friends 11 they also got selected. So we have gone through this process, and we have a 4x4 hit rate, so we know how they think. So you already have a lot of constriction when you are applying to STS, because the professors sitting over there by default, and they're right to an extent, assume that you have a lot of restrictions as medical student. So they're not going to select very high end kind of projects. Neither are they going to select very low, not low in the sense that easy kind of projects, that this is something very easy. So this is something, it just can add to your CV, it just can add some money to your pocket. But for me personally, I don't think it is a gateway of entering research into med school. If somebody wants to enter into research into med school, my advice is learn the basics of research, learn about the various study designs I have mentioned, go do a good course on biostatistics. I personally like biostatistics. I'm not very well versed in that, and he has a bit of working knowledge about that. But you can go and check out various courses on Coursera and YouTube. There are a lot of resources. If you want, you can, just go and check them out. ICMR is just a way to, I don't know how to say, add money, add to your CV, and maybe elevate your sense of pride of getting selected into something. I don't know. So that is what I can think of. Okay, now we come to how to do a research. So before we start this slide, I want to emphasize that
there's one thing I would like to say, Ishaan. Yes,
yeah.
You're right that ICMR is not really, if you want to do research,
Yeah.
ICMR is just a stepping stone. It's just there to help you, but it's not gonna be ultimately the thing that gets you into research. What's gonna get you into research is those connections you make with the mentors, because those people know about STS. So at least when you go to them and you tell them, okay, I read about STS, so they know, okay, this person has tried something on their level, so they're a little interested in it, right? So by doing an STS research with them, they'll include other researchers too. Like I remember that when we were going for our ethical clearance for STS research in first year, there was an anesthesiologist in the ethical committee, and she saw our work, she saw our protocol, and she said, okay, you guys are first year students. And she said, you can do this. Why don't you do research with me too? So that's how we got our second research project. And that's how it's going to be, right? It's just a stepping stone. I mean, of course, it's not going to incredibly help you, but at least it can help you in networking, because a lot of people know that, okay, STS is a thing. Okay, you can continue.
Yeah. So yeah, as Annie said, I think I went too overboard. So with against ICMR. So yeah, so definitely that is the thing. So but we want to say that ICMR STS in itself is not a very big thing. But if you want to learn, then it gives a kind of deadline kind of thing that you have to pursue your research like you are pursuing your studies, right? You have to pass your first year, second year. So that gives that kind of feeling, and that also maybe helps a bit. So that is the reason why we were able to complete our first project in our first year. So that was the only reason. So yeah, that can be also. And yeah, connections, again, very important, cannot emphasize enough. Every speaker who has come on this stage on this Humans of USMLE pattern has re-emphasized its connections. Research is a doorway to connections, no matter where you. Yeah, so procedure. So this is very important, and I think this I'll spend the most of the rest of the session. I'll keep sticking to this. I'll show you some examples. For me, first of all, I think as students in India, you should start with observational studies. You should start with cross-sectional studies, or maybe case-controlled cohort if you have some very good mentors. But if you are starting at a personal level, then either survey or KAP studies or your observational descriptive studies, analytical studies, cross-sectional studies are the best ones to start. So what is a cross-sectional study? I'll just brief it about it. So cross-sectional studies, any kind of study where you observe any kind of population in a specific period of time. The word that is used is snapshot. So what do I mean about that? So I'll just come to one of the projects that we are currently doing, and I'll just show you what I mean that. So yeah, procedure, again, research question framing. I'll just show. So this is our personal compendium of research questions that we used while we were trying to plan our study in medicine. So basically, when you find a mentor, you know you want to do research, you have to come up with research question. What is a research question? Research question basically means what do you want to achieve through your research project. Basically, you are asking yourself, or your mentor, or your basically yourself, that what you want to achieve through your research project. So before going into this research question thing, what I advise to the students is that you should decide your tone. You should not go just random, because medicine is too vast. You'll just get lost. You'll have some ideas here, some ideas there. So you should use a targeted therapy. That is the word that I'd like to use there. That you should just decide that, okay, I want to do medicine or surgery or something. So for example, you selected medicine, then you have to go, okay, medicine, which is the part of the medicine which interests me more. Like, it is nephrology, it is cardiology. For us, it was nephrology. So we decided, okay, we'll do something with the kidney. Then when you are in the kidney, then you can decide on the various type of research questions. So this is the list. So it's a pretty so it's a list made by students who were not very well versed in the research. But yeah, assessing the effect of COVID-19 on serum creatinine, 1, potassium, sodium in non-dialysis dependent chronic kidney disease patients. So what I want to emphasize along with that is that there are lectures on how to frame research question, but my advice is that you'll just learn with a go. Just try to frame some questions, get the help of your mentor. It's not difficult. You just have to be very concise, to the point. This is just a rough list that we assessed. You can just see the various questions that we framed, and ultimately we went and showed this to our professor, who was really impressed for some reason, either due to our lack of knowledge at that point of time that we were able to figure this, but or due to maybe there were actually some good ideas in there, but that we were not able to pursue due to resource availability. So yeah, that is one thing that you decide on your research question.
Yeah, but be ready. Like, we presented so many questions to him, and he cut out like 90% of it, because he just said that, okay, these are not feasible at a hospital. So you should be ready to be rejected. You should be ready that your ideas are going to be rejected. So it's just that at that point.
Yeah. And he's right. I think he almost like I think we had an half an hour discussion with him, and by the end, I was like, okay, he's going to reject everything. Let's just go home. Let's just make another list, decide another mentor. But he was right. Right now, right. So that is that.
Yeah,
So that is
especially Indian hospitals, right? Because we don't have a lot
yeah.
of technology, right? We're not like US
Yeah.
that we have
Yeah.
like 1,000 beds available or something. We don't
Yeah.
have that much technology and all that.
Yeah. So as any singer, so that was very enlightening. That is I'm saying you will not learn by listening to us here. We can just provide you a roadmap. When you'll go and work there with your professors, you will come to know the things we are talking about. You'll just experience them on first hand, right? Then protocol designing and arrangement of resources. That is thing I'll come to one of the protocols that we made. And ethical clearance from the institutional ethics committee, it is important in India. US also has some guide. Every country has some guidelines with regard to research. In India, when you design your protocol, what is a protocol? Again, mystery. I'll just come to it after we are done with this slide. Ethical clearance from the you submit your protocol. So protocol is basically a compendium of the things that you want to achieve through your research, right? And when you submit that to your institutional ethics committee, they just review it, and you are able to uh, get that project selected. So then we come to data collection. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Data collection, data cleaning, and analysis. I'll just come to that in a bit. Manuscript writing, submission in journal, reviewers, comments, and editing, and then publication. So yeah, seems like very short and sweet, but it isn't. Okay, then we come. Yeah, and now we come to what are the prerequisites for starting a research project. So one of the doubts again that I want to burst, those who are medical students and those who are graduates or anything, that you need to be a master of a topic before you take a research project. This couldn't be far from truth. Research is only about deciding that what you want to pursue and learning those things as you go. Because research is never about learning. Because ultimately, if everything about that topic was known, why even bother with research? So, say for someone is doing a project on electrocardiogram, that doesn't mean he has to be expert on electrocardiograms. He just needs to know the basics of electrocardiogram, and then he can go on to pursue the research on that. Learn stuff after you get a research question. Again, I have iterated that research is a process where you do and you learn. Again, that is focused literature review provides working information and working of a particular topic. Again, I'll come to it when I discuss the last part, that is how to design a protocol. And that is that. What you should know before doing a research project, again, I have emphasized. I'll just uh, touch upon that. Basic knowledge of study designs, ethics, and these things, and various type of biases or everything. I have covered various types of study designs and ethics and biases. Ability to search, critic, and evaluate scientific literature. And yeah, again, this is very important. I'll just come to how we went about designing a protocol, and I'll just discuss in detail. Specific skills for basic sciences project. Again, as I earlier mentioned, basic sciences projects have a lot of expectations from their researchers. You when you are going into molecular research, when you are going into some genetics based research, then need to devote a lot of time into that. Again, I am very interested, but I don't have the time for that. So I no first hand experience, so I can't tell you exactly what they expect from a researcher. But yeah. Data cleaning and codifying. This is nothing. Once you are done with your data, you have to reject away all the entries or something that you feel are invalidated due to some reason, and then you have to codify for analyzing it to SPSS or R or any language that you want. Working knowledge of biostatistics, that is very important. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. I'll come to it again while we are discussing the protocol. You need to have a vast, for at least we believe that you need to have a vast knowledge of biostatistics. You can do research without biostatistics at medical school, but I personally feel that it restricts your ability to do research in a lot of ways. You are going to need biostatistics when you are analyzing your data.
Yes,
And
yes. Like you can hire a statistician to do your statistics. Like they would know how to do it, but at least you as a doctor should know what you need to tell them, right? You need to tell them what you wanna, or like okay, get that. Like you're doing chi-square test, right? So you need to tell them which two variables you want to compare. And let's say because they're not doctors, right? They're statisticians. They're just going to do what you're telling them. And if you don't know what you're telling them to do, then there's no point. So even if you don't have a really deep knowledge of statistics, you should at least know the basics. You should know what you want to do, I would say.
yeah, so again, it's as Annie said, you can do research without biostatistics, but it'll be like just trying to run a marathon when you have some kind of disease in your leg, when you are restricted due to your that skill. So we believe that you should. There are a lot of courses on biostats on YouTube for free, and YouTube Coursera is a very good platform. And that is so. Yeah, scientific language, one of the important points. We'll come to it again when we are discussing the scientific paper writing, and that is very important while you write a research paper, especially important when you are applying to publication in an top journal. It becomes even more important. Okay, before we go into and discuss our protocol and everything, medical curriculum is hectic. When do we get the time to do this project? We don't know. Nobody has the answer to such type of questions, but I just made a slide because we felt that this question comes up in every medical student mind. It came to us, but I think it's totally up to you. Medical curriculum is hectic all over the world, right? And you need to take out time, and that depends on you. We can't just give advice that you do that. This your curriculum is different, your institution is different, your circumstances are different. But if you have decided that you need to do research, be it for MLE, be it for your own interest, or be it for anything, you have to commit for it, and you need to plan in advance. So I think Annie should detail about how we took out our time and how was our experience with time management in our first, second, and third year while we were doing research. I think I'm not very good with time management, so I'll just let her speak about that.
I mean, to be honest, it was just bad because I remember COVID hit and we were just sitting at our homes doing nothing all the time. It took us 3 months to actually be like adjust to COVID and be at home. So I'm gonna be honest, it was bad. We were really bad at time management in our first and second year. There's no easy way to put it. There's no way sugarcoating it. We were just bad. And I remember that in first year, like I remember STS dates were actually postponed, like the dates were extended. So if we had to submit it in 2020, it was extended 2021. And we thought, oh, hey, we have so much time. So why should we do anything? And that was a mistake, actually. That was a mistake that we thought we had so much time. We have almost 2 years, so we can take it easy. And I think that was a really big mistake because if we had done it earlier, if we had completed our research earlier, we could have done even more research because it was just in third year that we got a grip actually because we did one research from our first to the end of second year, I think. Only one research. Like I think there were two because it was like a sub research. We got one research out the another, but we just did one research and it was our fault actually. We had so much time. We were in our homes all day. We could have, but we didn't. And I think that is one mistake I'm going to tell you guys to not make. To think that okay, just because you have time, you can just take it easy. That's not it. And I think that it wasn't third year that we realized okay, we made a mistake, so we need to rectify it. And we started like 3 to 4 projects, and I think we're done with 2 more right now. Like 3 researches are up for publication. We're working on 2 right now. So I think this is the most important thing right now because time management, we were really bad at it in first 2 years. But I saw other people actually do it. There were some people in our class who were actually better at it. And there's no way to like go around it. You need to complete it when you can. If you have time, you do it. If you're not studying, you do the research. That's it. You don't just stay lazy around. You don't just be okay. It's research. I can do it tomorrow, right? And if you're not studying, right? If in first year you have 3 subjects: anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. And I'm going to be honest, if you're diligent, if you study an hour every day, you don't need to spend a lot of time on these subjects. You can do research. So it's like it's not an excuse actually at this point. It's just an excuse that okay, I need to study so much, I can't do research. It's just an excuse if you can make time actually, if you want to, that is. Because in third year we had our PSM community medicine postings, we had our ENT postings, we had ophthalmology postings, and we still did research. We did a research on CKD with a doctor in medicine. We did another with a doctor in anesthesiology. We are planning on doing one in radiology. So if you want it, you can create time. You're not that busy. You're just students. I'm going to be honest. You guys are students just like us, and we are not that busy. I mean, we can just go, okay, we need to study so much. We need to study so much. And there's such a vast syllabus, but those are just excuses at this point. It's not that difficult. You're just making excuses if you think you cannot do research with MBBS. That's all I have to say actually at this point.
Yeah. So as she said, yeah. So one takeaway point is that we were so bad at it, and we were able to complete 8 or 9 projects by the end of our third year. Then you can, do like triple. You can do 25. You can do 30. And one of the more important point that I remember that Annie has said, that you should complete your researches in time and then go for publication. A research paper sitting in your lab is worth use to no one. It's totally useless. It's just waste. Many
And
students
it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of time for
Yeah.
publication because you're going to write to them and then going to write back about the things they think you can change. And then you're going to defend your whatever you write. And it's just going to be a back and forth for months.
Yeah.
Like it can be for months. It's been going on for months. A doctor I know has actually processed the research, and it's been going. It's like a 9-month back and forth right now. It's been 9 months since they put it up for publication, and it's still not published. So you don't know how much time it's going to take.
Yeah, so that is again very important. If you are done with your paper, apply to publication as soon as possible, because nobody knows how much. So better the journal, the more the scrutiny. They will take more time to review it. They will take more time to analyze it. No, that. So yeah, projects are slow, can be done over a period of time. I think we have discussed it enough. Take projects that coincide with your postings. Yeah, you can. That is a way to save time. That if you are posted in medicine, you can take a medicine project. If you are rotating in surgery, you can
Yes.
take
Yeah,
a
that's
surgery.
exactly what we did
Yeah.
actually. That's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
We had research in CKD. It was in medicine ward. We took the research,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
when we were in
that-
wards, we did that. We took patients while in wards because you know how wards are, right? They just want you to take history. They just want you to do examination. You can just take a patient for CKD like we did, and you just do your examination history on them. And in this point, you have done your studies and you have contributed to your research.
Yeah.
So it's that.
Yeah, that is a very, very, very brilliant, actually brilliant. As I said, and he's very good with time. She actually is. You have to plan this. If you are doing research in medicine, you are posted in medicine. Ultimately, you have to see those patients, right? And ultimately, but again, this can be different for hospitals which are in districts or which do not have the facility or something like that. But if it is possible, when you are in a ward, take a research that coincides with that, what it will be slightly more helpful. It will be easy for you, easy for your studies, and easy for your research. Online projects are flexible but hold lesser value. Can't emphasize this enough. I discussed it while discussing the survey based KAP studies. Online projects are easy, yes, very good, but anybody can do that, and something that anybody can do automatically. So it's a basic principle of economics: demand and supply. Higher the supply, the lower the demand for that type of thing becomes. And
Yeah, if everyone can do it, it won't shine on your CV, right? When you're applying for MLE and they're looking at your CV and they just see something generic that everyone has done, it's not going to shine. It's not going to be that golden line, the PDCs, right?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, so golden line. So any we know that is step 1, step 2 CK. So that is the golden line for any CV for MLE. That is that. But yeah, coming back to research again, if we summarize what we have, what we want, because ultimately we are also students. So among all the speakers that you are going to hear, we are the least experienced ones. We are ourselves learning, so we might have missed out the things, but we are growing. And I think you should, we are seeing the world the way you are seeing. Maybe we started a project here and there a bit earlier, but it's same for us, right? And we have to learn. So what we wanted to convey, our ultimate thought was gain a working knowledge to initiate a project, learn about methods, learn about research, learn about data science, learn about biostatistics. I can't emphasize this enough. If you don't know what type of study you are doing, if you don't know what you are doing, you can do a research project, but ultimately you are not going to get a good publication, you are not going to get a good result. So first focus on basics, learn about, so it won't take much time. We learned it like in a month or so, and that too without any official resource. We just did and we learned. That is a way. Or you can go to various resources, and there are various free resources, paid resources, you can go and learn. Come up with a good research question, come up with a list of questions, go and ask your mentor what is feasible, what is not. Make a proposal and study design. Coming to that, I'll discuss it in detail. That is the most important part at this point of time. Those who are not well versed in research, start data collection. Again, depends on what you want to do. Biostats and data analysis. Write a manuscript, review it, and find an appropriate journal. So yeah, writing in manuscript, scientific paper writing is a skill. There are various ways to learn it. There are some courses you can learn it, you can learn the basics and then grow as you write more and more papers. I think it's all about practice. It's like around, it's like maths. The more you do, the more better. Submit and wait. Some journals that if you are aiming for a pretty good journal, it will take time, it will take months. So that is one of the things. But ultimately research is about patience, right? Research in itself is something that you are aiming to increase the overall sum of knowledge. It will take time. Be it publication, because in fact what I personally believe is a research that is done quickly and that is done early has a lot of chance, and it is done, to be honest, and it is our personal experience and we are very sure on that. In fact, we might in future do a project that researches on the topic that how many of the papers that are currently being published in the world are fake. We personally say that if you are doing a research project, do it with dedication, do it with determination. Don't just fake your something and do this and that, and it is not going to help anyone. Maybe in the short term it will help you with something, but ultimately research is about learning, it is about patience, and that. So yeah, I think I am at the end. Yeah,
we can
so
start
that
with the
was all.
protocols.
Yeah, just a second, I'll just show you an example of how to write Yeah, I think everybody can see that, right?
Yes, it's visible.
So this is one of the projects that we are currently doing, and I think Annie can discuss it in detail. She has worked closely with this. She can just go through it, and I'll just add some points here and there about how to design a protocol. I think you're muted, and I hear you. I think you should check your earphone. I think there's some issue. Till then, I'll just take over and start with it, right? So yeah, basically when we design a research protocol, the essence of a research protocol is, if you want to summarize what you want to do in detail, what do you want to do? What is the currently available data on what you want to do? What has already been done? What uh, you know uh, what has already been done, what you want to do, and discuss in detail your methodology and everything. And you have to summarize it in like 5-7 pages. That is a protocol. That is a research protocol. So here you can see, first of all, it always starts with the title, assessing the electrocardiogram changes among chronic kidney disease patients presenting in the emergency ward at a tertiary care center in Delhi, a descriptive observational study. So that gives you an idea of what a title should look like. I don't know, I know it's not perfect, but this gives you a pretty good idea of, how uh, title framing should be done. It should be concise, it should be to the point, and it should include as much information as possible you can in 1 or 2 lines. So in this line, I conveyed everything that I wanted to do. I wanted to study uh, justice. Yeah, I think there was some background noises. Yeah. So, yeah. Uh, in this 2 lines in this title, I have conveyed what I wanted to convey. I wanted to do a study on CKD patients, their ECG changes in a tertiary care center, and the type of study would be a descriptive observational study. So that I think how a title should be. Then your introduction you can look, it's a pretty big thing. We will not go into the details of what an introduction should be like, but basically introduction means, for example, where here we are talking about CKD, you just give a background of the things that have been done. What is CKD? So the main point that you should consider here should be concise. Again, it should be very concise, to the point. Tell what is CKD. If you are interested, you can just put in a basic epidemiology that I have, and that CKD is blah blah blah, this is its epidemiology. That's it. 3-4 lines are more than enough. Then you enter the domain of what you exactly want to do. What is the various symptoms of CKD, various things that are done in CKD, and slightly zoom in. So what I call this as the zoom in approach. You just start with a wider thing and you just go on focusing into what you actually want. So here I have discussed some pathophysiology of CKD, the example, a table for categorizing the various stages of CKD and everything. And then ultimately you zoom in and you tell what are the research, a few research papers that have already been published on what you want to do, or some related papers if it's a totally new idea. So in case of CKD, ECG changes, it's a pretty, a lot of research papers have been published here and there on CKD, and you can just tell about them. And then you can just see. So yeah, basically introduction is a 3-body system where you start, introduce your topic, tell about a few papers that have been done, and ultimately end with what do you want to achieve through your project, right? So that is that. And then we come to your literature review. So literature review, what is literature review? So literature review again is an in-depth compendium of everything that has been performed on what you want to do. Again, there are courses on literature review. It's a very in-depth topic. You can go to PubMed, you can go to Google Scholar. There are some functions here and there that you can use to search about the topic that you want to. So here, if you are talking about CKD, we just go to PubMed, we just go to Google Scholar and search CKD, and or there are various functions. You can even go to the PubMed websites and you go to, there is a section for learning the various kinds of search methods and something. You can go there. They have themselves made around 1 hour or something videos that you can check out. They are pretty good videos, as there are short YouTube videos that you can. Yeah, so that is that. So that is about literature review. And now so yeah, that is, I'm just showing you what we did. And then the next component of a protocol is research question. You already have framed that. So here our question was, what are the various electrocardiogram changes among chronic kidney disease patients presenting to the emergency ward at a tertiary care hospital in Delhi? So again, it's like title, but in an interrogatory form. What you want to do, concise, to the point, in 1 or 2 lines. Aims and objectives, primary objective, secondary objective. So here, as you can see, primary objective is basically, a variation of words of your title, study the ECG findings among CKD patients in the ED. Secondary objectives, we had multiple assess, association factors, correlation factors, and everything, depending on the type of the study you are doing. You can have multiple secondary objectives. So that is that. And then we come to your materials and method. Again, you have to summarize where the study was conducted or would be conducted, what was the study design, what was the period, sample size calculation. You can learn about that. It's a part of biostatistics. You need to know about various alpha, power of test, precision, and so there is a lot of detail. I won't go into that, but you need to have basic biostats knowledge to do that. And then we come to your inclusion and exclusion criteria. That is again very, very, very important for clinical studies. In case if you are doing an intervention or clinical trial, then even more important. So, for example, if you are doing some clinical trial, then you need to exclude your pregnant population unless it's has been warranted to use in that population. And they are also, inclusion and exclusion are also very important in cases where some factors or some specific kind of patients might not be the good candidate for your study. For example, when we wanted to study about the ECG changes in chronic kidney disease, there could be some people in which the renal function was deranged due to acute kidney injury or due to cardiac factors. They were already prone to some cardiac disease. So we need to exclude that. So you have to define that exclusion and inclusion criteria in detail. Then methodology, again, it's a compendium of,
Hello?
Yeah, Annie, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. I think there was some difficulty with my words.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you can continue.
Yeah. So basically, again, methodology is a compendium of what. So here we have discussed what we wanted to do. So you just have to write in a simple language what you want to do. After obtaining a valid consent, that we'll do this, that we will take these reports, and all that basic stuff in statistical analysis, how you are going to do the statistics part. You are going to use mean, median for first, what type of data, what type of tests you will deploy for, what type of data. So that are again important, which you will only know if you have a working knowledge of biostatistics. And then this ethical consideration, it's more or less, this copy paste paragraph type of thing, that there are you just write it, that everything will be in ICMR's guideline for ethical research, and the Helsinki Declaration will be followed. And then some people write research implications, not necessary, that what would be the ultimate long-term benefits and goals of what you are pursuing. And in the end, important part, the references, each and everything apart from established facts. For example, this is very important. You are writing a research paper on CKD, and so it's very well known that chronic kidney disease, the definitions of CKD are, well, everybody in the world who is going to read your paper on CKD knows about that, basic about CKD. So you don't need to cite about that. But any form of data that you cite in your protocol or further in your paper, you have to cite your source. There are various ways. There are Vancouver style, there is APA style, Harvard style. You have to go learn about them. Each and every journal has its own way of referencing. You need to follow that and submit according to that. So basically, that is how a protocol looks like. And I think I have pretty much summed it up.
Yeah. Yeah, like in a protocol, if I just had to summarize, three things are important. Like, what are the three things the reader wants to know? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Like, what are the implications and how you're going to do it? If you're going to do something and it does not have any real life practical applications, nobody's going to be interested in it, right? So you need to know why, what are you going to do, why are you going to do it, and how you're going to do it. And like Ishaan talked about the research, how you reference articles and all that. So one thing you need to keep in mind is that, let's say you're doing research in India, you're doing a CKD research in Indian patients. You need to reference articles and papers that are done in Indian populations. There's no point referencing articles that are done in US populations, right? So always go from there. Like if you're doing a study in Delhi, look for other studies that have been done in Delhi for that specific topic. Then look for the ones that are done in India. Also, keep in mind that the best ones are the ones which have been done in the past 5 to 6 years, right? Don't go way back in history. Like a research done 20 years ago is not going to be helpful. So that's one thing you need to keep in mind.
Yeah, and that and one with that, one thing that I forgot to mention for ICMRs, for those who are interested, those who want to still pursue it, they should, and it's a very good opportunity. The mindset of the ICMR director, as of a person who is selecting your ICMR project, is mostly derived that they are going to select a project that is, first of all, you need to be thorough with your protocol. A blatant error in your protocol is going to get you rejected, so that is very clear. But for the idea part, I would say focus on less studied populations that are specific to India. That again puts you in a trap, because apart from a few population that, as Annie said, we did on the transgender population, we did on the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, LGBT population. So these are very, so the world is, being interested in all the various type of studies in sexual minorities, gender minorities. They are relevant to all over the world. They are relevant in the US. They are relevant in India. Those are very good topics. But apart from that, if you study some minority disease or minority population in India, that might not be very relevant to some one in US. But yeah, so the mindset should be, you should have a thorough protocol, you should have a good mentor, and just don't go about those repeated topics, that lung transplant, your lung cancer, smoking, organ transplant. They are going to get rejected right away. You have to bring something new to the table. And even this CKD might, if you have applied to the ICMR, it might not have got selected, because it's a very, first of all, it's a very clinical based research, and a lot of work has been done. What you are doing new is that we are trying to do this in the emergency setting, so that is the thing, but it's ultimately not something out of the box. So try to do something that has not been done in India. That is your LGBT population, your various gender minorities, your sexual minorities. These are one of the least studied groups in India that are very important. Apart from that, some socio-economic groups that have not been studied. For example, everybody knows that CSOM and otitis media and something are very common in the lower socio-economic background. So you can just go into those populations which have not been studied. So that is the last point that I needed to add.
Yeah.
So I think
one more
yeah.
thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing that is a little controversial is about the authorship, right? So the reason Ishaan said that observational studies are so good for us is because we can be the first author and people are not gonna question that.
Yeah, that is very
Like
important.
there's no point of doing an interventional study because nobody's gonna think that a medical student is qualified to do that. You're not qualified to do an interventional study. You cannot do a drug trial. You can never be a first author in those studies. Yes, you can be a 10th author, but then what's the point, right? If you guys are applying for MLE, you need CVs. What's the point of having 10th authorship in some interventional study when you have the first authorship and observational study, right? So go for observational studies because they're feasible for us and people will let us do them. Because let's say you pick up a drug trial, you become an interventional study. The first question they're going to ask you in the ethical committee is that, oh, you're a medical student, you cannot do this. We cannot give you the permission to do this, right? So you'll never be the first author in those studies. So just be sure to pick up observational studies. They're the best kind right now.
Yeah, that is very important. You can go for drug trials or something advanced, but there is a very rare chance that you are going to be a first author on a drug trial. You can, but if you are, if you are getting an opportunity,
there are legal issues, right? Because as a medical student, we are not authorized to administer drugs. We are not. A doctor has to do it. So let's say you do a drug trial and then that doctor is not the first author. You're the first author. People are going to start questioning it, right? Because we know the amount of fights happen over authorship. We know that, right?
Yeah. So I think we can take some questions. We have 10 minutes. Yeah, we have 10 minutes left. We can take a few questions.
Guys, if there are any questions you can ask right now, because we'll be done with this right now, like 10 more minutes. Okay, we have a question here. Can I do research on known psychopaths with data available from public platforms? Okay, I have a story for this. So I remember going to the psychiatry department and telling them that I'm really interested in convicted criminals. that I want to study criminals. And the first thing she told me was, you are not eligible for that. You cannot go and interact with criminals. That is not authorized. That is something residents do in PG. That she just straight went out, and that idea was thrown out of the window. Though, so like you can do it, but if like in my hospital, I was not authorized to do it, because if people, the psychiatry hospital, they have liabilities. They cannot just let a medical student run wild and do research. They need to look at the legalities and all that. And as you're saying that available from the public platform. Okay, we have another question here, I think. Ishaan, you can take that.
Yeah. What are the requirements for applicants from point of health? What about if he has chronic hepatitis B? So I think you want to ask that what if someone has some kind of chronic illness, and then if he or she can do a research. I don't think there is some barrier to that, until unless you have some personal restrictness or something like that. But for as such, we know there is no such limitation on somebody who is ill. I- If I'm if I'm getting what you wanted to ask.
I can ask more. If, I don't think we exactly get the question. So if you can clarify it a bit.
Yeah.
And continuing from the question just above it, yes, you can use data from public platforms, but then again, there are some issues in it. You don't know how reliable it is, because a lot of
So yeah.
platforms
Hmm.
require
So
money,
so
right? They need to pay for it. So yeah, Ishaan,
yeah.
if
So
you're
so
doing something.
some platforms, some databases. Some are open access databases. You can, if you get access to open access databases, then that is well and good. They can be a source of very good research. Many US based universities have access to the various kinds of. I think we have a session on how to conduct research from various types of data sets. You should attend that. So some are open access, some are not open access. So ultimately you need to go into the legality, that if you are eligible to use that data set or not. If you are able to use that data set, I think it's one of the most optimal kind of study. That how helpful can research department of one's medical school be in terms of research conduction and publication?
Okay, so there was no UG research committee in my college.
Yeah.
There's a PG one. There is no UG research committee. We were the first batch. There is nothing right now. So
Yeah.
I don't really have experience with that, but I think it would be helpful. Like if you have research
Yeah,
department, yeah, if you're a part of it, they will help you with research, right?
Yeah.
Because these are all the people who want to do research collected at one place, right? These people
Yeah.
are curious, these people want to do research, and these people want people who want to do research for them, right? So I think it will be really helpful if you can just go and ask them, right? That's the the minimum effort you can put, right? You can just go and ask.
Mm.
What's the worst thing they can do? Say no, right?
Yeah, definitely that. Oh, I can see if there are some questions.
Yes, all the lectures are going to be recorded, so you guys don't need to worry. All of this is going to be recorded. So I think we're done with the questions here.
Yeah, I think we can ask Dr. Zeeshan and the other moderators to, just take over.
If we have, I think we have a 5-minute break maybe, and then we can start with other session.
Yeah.
If there are no more questions, you can go ahead and announce the break, and then we'll begin the next session.
Definitely, I think we should go on a 5-minute break.
There's like one question here. I think I just saw a question. Which platform are best and must to find authentic data? Also, where to publish it to make it global? How to stay first and second author? Okay. This is tricky because a lot of times professors, let's be real, they're doctors, and there are a lot of people who are at certain positions that they want to be the first author if they're the guide, right? Fortunately, we didn't meet people like that. We met really good people. Our mentor in medicine and physiology, they were really good. They were very understanding in what we wanted to do. So they never contested for the spots. But I think the best way to make that do that is to make it clear in the beginning that it's your research, it's your idea, you want to be the first author, right? And I mean, you need to work for it. You cannot just give the idea and say that, okay, now I'm the first author, I'm not going to do anything else. You guys do it. So you need to work for it. You need to make it clear in the beginning. And I think that's about it. If the person in front of you is rational, they're logical, they understand you, I think that's fine.
Yeah, and that also where to publish it and which are the best and must to find authentic data. So I don't have a list. I would say you should attend a session on databases that we have. There are a few data sets that are available through National Institute of Health that are very good. Some institutions have their data in open access. Again, you have to go and find them. I won't, say anything because do not have experience with them. Where to publish to make it global? Every research you publish in an index journal is global. So by global, I think you mean you want to, how to publish in a way that it has more value. So again, just go and search. If say for example, we did that research in electrocardiology and chronic kidney disease, just go and search the top journals in cardiology, the top journals in nephrology, and then you will have a list of all the various journals by impact factor organized in a line. So so again, the higher the impact factor, the higher the H index, the difficult it is to publish. But again, that is that. And I think we should take a 5 minute break and then we will be back with
Yeah,
our
there's like
next session.
okay, wait a minute, I think there's one question. So, okay, hi. So it's okay to go to medical university and ask them in person or by email only. You can go meet them in person. Okay. I don't think when you're in our own college, you need to go and write emails. Like it works when you are trying to communicate with doctors from other universities. But if they're from your own, right, they would understand, okay, this person is a medical student here. And they would, and they want to, right? If they want to, they will help you. I don't think you need to go and write them emails. I never did. I went to a just went to the psychiatry ward. I went to the medicine ward, and I just approached the professors directly in their office. I don't think it's required for email. Some people might say it, but I don't think it's a requirement. No, not really. And is it true that only the first three authors in the paper are important? Okay, so this depends. I think this depends on the importance of paper or how the large scale study it is. So if it's a
Yeah,
really big
definitely.
drug trial, I think a lot of authors, the first 5, 7, 6 authors will matter. But if it's a really small study, right? It's a really small observational study, then try to be within the first three authors. I would say be at least I would say that be the first author if you can, right? It's the best for Emily purposes, because a lot of times what they see is that, okay, for Emily, what the PDs see as this is, okay, how many researches has this person published? Okay, they have published 10 papers. Okay, so how many research has this person published as a first author? And then they're going to count that. Sometimes they just do these simple tricks to filter out the applicants. So just try to be within the first three authors, the first author if you can. That's the best. Be the first author if you can.
Yeah, so quantity is greater than quality. It's unfortunate but true. So I think we can just, I think it's time. It's already time for the next session. So we'll just give the stage to Dr. Tejasvi or Dr. Isha, Dr. Mansuri.